to the track, the wall, makes the leap, and makes the catch! Amazing catch by Junior! He got it! A perfect game! 13 strikeouts. And Bonds hits one hard! It's a game! It is out of here! 7:56! What a special moment for Barry Bonds! Swinging a long drive, deep to right, going, goodbye! He has done it! He has changed the game of the night with one swing of his bat!
Hello and welcome to the Champions Adjust podcast. My name is Aaron Machbitz. This is Coach David Bodzin. We together are Champions Adjust, and this is episode 42 of the podcast.
Is this like, how long has it been since 41?
1 month.
Good God. I'm sorry, y'all. I know that everybody who listens to us, like on the tip of their chairs, just like, hey, when is this next episode coming out? I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but you know, sometimes the greatest things in life you have to wait for.
Well, yes, and we're going to talk about why it basically took us so long to get another episode, because our last couple episodes, we were very consistent, boom, 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 boom. And then now it's been 4 weeks since you last heard from us, but a lot is happening. We're in the midst of baseball season, a lot of trials and tribulations, and that's really going to be the theme of this episode. Like what are the ups and downs? What are the peaks and valleys of coaching youth baseball, specifically 14-year-olds? But before we get into that, I'd just like to say that the sponsor of this podcast is
Champions Adjust.
Champions Adjust is the sponsor for the Champions Adjust podcast, because Champions Adjust is the business which incorporates our clothing brand, our podcast, and the most important thing, our mindset program. So now on to this, Coach Bodzin.
Yo, what's up?
Last 4 weeks have been a lot, right?
Yeah, they've been a lot.
Just off the top, right? For you, you're a new father.
Yes.
You have a full-time job.
Yep.
And you're a full-time pitching coach.
Yep.
And you have your own baseball team.
Yep.
And the last one of those, having your own baseball team, there's been some unique challenges. I think some firsts for you as a coach, since we're both very new in our coaching.
Sure. We're within our first 5 years, which is new. This is definitely new.
We're quite good for that, I'd say. But anyways,
I
won't pump myself up too much.
Sure, you know me. I need to get pumped up every so often. That's my personality. So
I think you've dealt with some firsts for you as a head coach, handling them the best we can.
Sure.
With me trying to help you, but you obviously in the midst of it all because it's your team.
Yes.
But would you like to say anything about that, or how are you feeling, or what's going on right now? All of that.
It's been a season. I'm actually, so I'm in a position. What is that, discipline?
This podcast is not sponsored by Jocko Go, but we'd love to because we love Jocko.
Do we?
Discipline, yeah, he's sweet.
Is it better for you than Celsius?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Does it have caffeine in it?
Very little.
Get it for me.
And it's American made by American hands in an American factory.
So this like fell apart in my hands. Like, oh, this is American made.
Yes.
American hands, cool. So we always talk about how, and this is my coaching style, and not everybody agrees with my coaching style, and that's fine. Everybody has different coaching styles. I think that Ron Washington and Buck Showalter have different coaching styles.
For sure.
Right? Like coaching styles change and differ. My coaching style is, especially when I have a brand new team with kids I've never met before and I've never really seen them play baseball, is everybody kind of starts on an even playing field. Like here you are, everybody's here. And it's going to take me a month to 6 weeks to learn personalities, learn talent level, learn work ethic, learn if you're locked in and actually care. And it takes about 4 to 6 weeks. And I think that my biggest challenge this season with the team I had is this was a very talented team with a melting pot of athleticism, of players who have come from winning teams to play under me. And I've been, generally speaking, a successful coach on the scoreboard, generally speaking. But I couldn't focus on winning games before I understood these players and their motivations, right? So the first 6 weeks did not go super well. And a lot of it was staying locked in, giving a shit that's what I'm really going to come down to is, do you give a shit about being out here? And a lot of times it wouldn't. We would play to the best of our ability one game, and the very next game we would just like lay it out there and I would say it again. We just didn't give a shit. And that got very frustrating for me. And I think a lot of that was because I am a new dad and I'm sitting here like, hey, I'm spending a lot of time away from my family this season. And that's not easy to do when your son is growing before your eyes and you're never home. But I give everything I have to this team, to these kids, which I love to do, but it's almost like a slap in the face when we go out there and they just lay it out there, right? So then, okay, so me as a coach, how can I lift them up?
Right.
And all of these challenges are coming for the first time for me while I'm also a head coach without an assistant for the first time in my career, right? Because you and I have been together, ride or die together, shake and bake. It's shake and bake for a couple years now. And so doing all that basically by myself, right? It's challenging, and it was challenging, but it's also gratifying because the last 8 games have been just tremendous for us. Just next level. We're playing a good brand of baseball now, right? But not everybody agrees with how I got us there. And not everybody agrees with everything that I do, right? But at the end of the day, that's what makes this job so exhausting is as a coach, you give everything you have to these kids. But then you'll get phone calls from parents saying, I don't agree with this. Or you'll get questions from your parents saying, hey, why is this and why is that? And really at the end of the day, our job is to do our best to our ability, right? And we are human beings. And I think that at the end of the day, we do what we do to put their children in the best position possible, but not just their children. I mean, there's 12 to 13 kids on each team. We have to do it for each kid.
Right.
Right. So it's been an exhausting season for me. I can get more into it as you prod more questions, but that's just my thing. It's been an exhausting season for me from the parent perspective. But from the kid perspective, it's been extremely gratifying because these kids, I do care deeply for these kids, and they're starting to show me what I know they have in them.
Yeah.
Consistently. And as you know, that was my biggest challenge the first 6 weeks. Now we played 2 straight tournaments where we didn't lay down. We just went in. We went to the championship of 1 game. We lost the very first game of the next tournament, which basically disqualified immediately from bracket play. But we won 9-0 and 12-0 our next 2 games, which you were there for all of those. And there was never a point where we just weren't playing well. It just didn't happen at certain points, right? So that's been my deal, my spiel.
It's such an interesting dynamic coaching youth baseball because you don't coach youth baseball for the money.
No.
You don't coach it because the hours are good.
Nope.
You don't do it because everyone gives you thanks all the time. You simply do it, well, the best ones, right? We've seen some other people do it for those reasons and not be successful and not have those things work out the way they potentially could. But generally speaking, at least the coaches I'm around, me, you, Trevor, Coach Lovell, right? Simply coach youth baseball because they love it.
Yeah.
And just a part of doing that happens to be you're dealing with parents.
Sure.
Because that's part of the deal.
Part of it, yeah. But that's at the end of the day, like it's important for me to have a good relationship with the parents because and I think this is probably one of my faults as a coach, right? There's a lot of coaches who are like, yeah, the parents won't talk to me. Well, to me, it's like, hey, we're all in this together. You're trusting me with your kids, so I'm going to be communicative to you. But then there's that line that consistently gets crossed of, hey, I want my kid to play in this position, by the way. Yeah. Like, okay, that's not your decision. Or, hey, they need to do this and do this and do this, and hey, you need to do this better. And that's not your decision. Like at the end of the day, that is a line you can't cross because now, hey, you go coach in, right? And by no means am I thinking of any specific situation. I'm thinking of all the different situations that have occurred over the years to other coaches, right? Is, hey, little Jimmy belongs in the 3-hole. He's a 3-hole hitter. Like, why are you not hitting him there? Well, because I don't see him there, and that's my job. Versus, hey, we don't necessarily agree with everything you're doing as a coach, but like you're the coach. And that's where that line is. It's tough to be drawn, right? But it is important for the parents to be involved in this stuff because it's their money and it's their time that's being spent until they get into high school.
Involved in what way, though? Because that's a
good question.
That's a serious thing, right? Sure. Involved in a sense where they bring their kid to the baseball game.
Right.
They show up, they cheer their kid on, and in between games, they get in some food. Or they involved in a way where they're sitting on the fence, they're calling you after every game, they're questioning your coaching calls,
Sure.
They're murmuring.
I'm getting a lot of that this season.
They're murmuring in between parents. They're trying to create divisive language. And so all of that stuff matters. Yes, they're involved because they're paying.
Sure.
And we appreciate the pay. But the number one thing the parent should be involved in is that they trust the coach.
Sure.
And that's the coach's job to earn that, right? You should earn it because they signed up for your team, right? So they have a little bit of faith in you, but then you keep earning it every single time you see their child. I think where you get into trouble, not to attack you.
No, please attack me. I've had a tough season on this.
Where you get in trouble is you want so badly for everyone to understand why you're making the decisions you make, which as a coach is a good thing.
Sure.
But with the parents, you then create a relationship that crosses the line a little bit because you have so much communication with them because you want them to understand every decision, and then they feel like they're allowed to explain their side of it, and then it sort of makes you feel bad because now you know where they're coming from and why Fred is not playing because this is how he feels and all this, and then it just creates this like really hard dynamic on you because you're such a person with a big heart who cares, and now it just weighs on you even deeper than it would if just like in a regular way. Because no coach likes to keep a player off the lineup. Like if they care about their team, right?
Gosh, no.
And especially if they have a talented team like you do, like I do, right? We want to put every kid in the lineup.
Absolutely, at all times.
And so when we have to take them off because we think that's the best choice for the team, and then we know the whole backstory of how they got here, why they got here, what their parent thinks, what they talk about when they get home, how many reps they took, it like makes it way harder to make that, trying to make this unbiased decision about the baseball game.
Sure.
And so, sometimes that might get you in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
And trouble by I mean like it has complicated emotions for you.
Sure.
For you
because
to
I
figure
care.
out. Right.
And that's why it complicates emotions, because I care so deeply for the kids. We'll talk about should I talk about what happened last week?
It's just we'll just say it as a general situation.
Sure.
For anyone,
there was a general situation
for
where
anyone who's listening.
I had 13 players on a team, and I had to sit down and really lock down like, hey, I'm having to split a lot of time, a lot of guys. I could use, and I've been saying this for a couple months, like I could use a 12-person team. Mm-hmm. It would make things easier from a playtime perspective because I don't like guys being on the bench, right? That's just, everybody should play. We're all in this together. Everybody should be playing. And so I when that happens, you can give them an option. That's actually an advantage of what we're doing is I can give a kid an option like, hey, you can play the same amount you're playing right now, or you can go play a lot more for a different team.
Yeah, we've really tried to build that system.
We have.
We've tried to build that system. We started last year with Wolfpack, and we tried to integrate that system with 5-Star. Now, it doesn't always work out perfectly because sometimes maybe we ourselves as coaches don't express in the correct way why it makes sense early on.
Right.
And so then later on when we try to do it, it comes as like a shock.
Yes.
So that's totally on us. We can take responsibility for that.
But also we always try to be front about like, hey, you can move up. Nobody's safe ever. You can move up and
but only saying that one time in a couple emails, right? It's like not as beneficial as like repeating it over and over again, saying this is possible. Every time you play the baseball game, you're trying to earn your spot. Right. And we're trying to find you a spot where you can get the most amount of playing time. And that there could be up and down movement. So I will take full responsibility for that. But also on top of that, this situation is important because it's going to happen a lot until you get to like a serious level where if you're moving up and down, that sort of means you get cut from the team.
College.
Yes.
Now in high school, if you go to varsity, you can get sent down like that.
Right. If
you go to JV, you can get sent down to JV too. Those exist, right?
Well, especially if you're a junior or a sophomore and they expect you to play the next year, and the guy in front of you is a guy who plays every day. They don't want you just sitting at the varsity games. They want you playing on the JV, getting your reps, and then coming to the varsity games to see the speed, the atmosphere, and the chemistry of the game. So that stuff happens all of the time.
Yes.
All of the time. Because you want to be able to feel that environment. Because playing in a varsity game is much different than playing in a junior varsity game. The fans are different, the atmosphere is different, the speed of the game is different, but you still have to get your reps in. Just sitting on the bench watching the game can get you better.
It can.
It can get you better, but doing both.
It's also youth baseball. You shouldn't be on the bench most of the time.
In youth baseball,
you shouldn't be on the team most of the time.
Yes,
and as a coach, it's my responsibility, and it's your responsibility to see a kid on the bench most of the time and say, hey, this is not a good situation for you.
Right.
This is not okay. And maybe I could have handled this better. Maybe I should have done this a couple months ago. Maybe I was hoping I didn't have to do this and it just panned out this way, right? But at the end of the day, when this gets done, it's never, you suck, get off my team.
Right, never,
it's a, hey, this is not working right now. I don't feel comfortable with you being on my bench because you are more you're too talented to be on my bench. You should go play all the time for a different team. Whether it be for this team I'm recommending or it be a different team altogether. Right. That's okay. I understand. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I just I can't split time with you and other people who are playing better than you throughout the season. And this is, and I'm honestly, obviously there was that one situation, but we saw it last year too. And we saw it the year before that too, where it's like, guys, like, I love you as a person. You're a great kid. You're not putting the work in that I need you to put in. It shows because everybody is. We've seen this before. We've seen this 3 years in a row where somebody will start here on the team or here on the team and end up in the middle or end up towards the bottom because everybody else throughout the season works their butts off to get here. And that kid, it just ghosts. And it's hey, that's okay. But you're losing playing time now. I mean, I'm thinking of, now I'm like 10 different names in my head over the last 5 years. And I'm thinking of like, oh yeah, that kid and that kid and that kid. Like, I've had those conversations. You have to work hard if you want to do this. And if you're not going to work hard, you're going to lose playing time. You're going to lose your spot on the team and it's not going to work out. And guess what? We can hold your hand and say, hey, please do this, please do this, please do this. And youth baseball, next year is high school and that stops. You're not doing it, you're off the team. That's how high school works. Right. We're going to have a team next year, 15 kids. Can't have one of those kids not giving a shit. Right. One of the kids doesn't give a shit, we're going to find another kid to fill that 15th spot.
There's still only 9 spots in the field. Right.
And that goes to the other aspect, right, is, and we've talked about this before, coaches do have favorites. Coaches have favorites. But it's not up to me who my favorites are, right? My favorites are the kids who work their tails off and are leaders on the team and want to be out there and want to give everything they have. Yeah, those kids will naturally be my favorites. I also have kids who are, I think 2 kids ever that I've coached who I could do without and don't want to coach again because they just didn't care and they never took it seriously. And it's like, hey, that's fine. You're probably a good kid, but I don't need you on my team ever again, right? And then there's the middle. Like, hey, yeah, sometimes you're my favorite, sometimes you're not, but you're not grabbing me. And so that happens, right? Because teachers have their favorites. Coaches have their favorites. So the kids who take it seriously, lock in and get the job done, right?
Those people are called radiant exemplars.
Okay.
Right? People who stand up above the crowd. It's not because they're talking louder than everyone else, but simply because they're doing the work consistently.
Right.
And you say one thing to them one time and they do it forever.
Yes. And I absolutely will give more playing time to my favorites because I know for a fact that you're going to go out there and get your job done. Or you're going to give everything you have in you to get your job done.
Right.
You might not be the best baseball player out there, but you give me the best effort out there. And that's what I need is best effort because that is contagious.
Translates.
Best effort is contagious. And what's the word you just used?
Radiant exemplar.
Beautiful.
That's what I mean. You're shining a light so bright that everyone wants to follow you.
Yes.
Right? Because people care very little about the words you say. They care more about the actions you present. That's as a coach and as a player who wants to be a leader. Right. As a coach, we're trying really hard to do that. We're trying to say what we mean and mean what we say and follow that up with our actions.
Yes.
And then we want our kids to do that too. And so that's what's important. And if we have certain players who are presenting in that light, those are our leaders. And those are the guys we want to see on the field or having the ball when the game is on the line or whatever the case may be is. And if you can create a team full of those guys, not a team full of leaders. Not everyone is a leader.
That's not how it works.
But everyone follows the chemistry of the team. And we got little baby Mark over here getting after it.
To make sure this is close. Hey, buddy. Hey.
Marky Mark. Just like Mark. He's a radiant exemplar.
He is a radiant exemplar because he's loud. But he's loud. He's being a leader.
But he's a leader. And so that's what we're looking for. You can't have a team full of leaders because there's no followers. You need a couple people who create the chemistry for the team. And then that breeds cohesion and hustle and competitiveness.
Well,
and that's really what you're trying to build.
Is that my team, as you've seen, went from 2 to 3 guys giving a shit to 12 guys top to bottom, chattering each other up and actually going after it, man. And this team's really, really good when they do that.
Yeah.
Are they the best team in the city? No, they're not. But they're a good team. They're a fun team to be around when they are.
Yeah.
Because they're athletic. And we work on it every Wednesday and a decent amount on Thursdays. And they work out on their own. And we give them the resources. And the ones who take advantage of those resources have gotten significantly better throughout the season. And I'm trying to think, I think that of the 12 I have on my team right now, I don't think anybody's gotten worse. as the season's gone.
No, they haven't.
They've gotten
I've watched your team play
better.
a considerable amount.
Yeah, they've gotten better since day one.
And I remember watching them play the black team in one of those first scrimmages where they got schlacked for the only reason they got beat so bad is because they just didn't show up to the game.
Sure.
They were there. They were on the field.
Yeah, they weren't playing.
Until now, playing some really good teams. Maybe not so much this past weekend, but still, even those are really challenging baseball games.
Yes.
And they showed up to play. But the last weekend I was there when you played some of those really good teams where you made it to the championship, showed up to play the baseball game with an energy about them, togetherness, right? That's important because at this level, and I think it goes all the way up to the Division I level, even sometimes at the Major League level, it's about momentum and it's about playing as a team. Why have the Padres or the Mets not won? Because they don't have a team. They have players on their team, right?
Some great players.
They have players on their team, but they don't have a unit. They don't have a unit. They don't have a cohesion. Right. They don't have a chemistry. They don't have a team culture. They don't have a team philosophy that they all live and breathe by that builds them together. And so that's what's really important. I was talking to someone on my other podcast about what makes a good coach. And I came up with 3 things that I think are important.
Okay.
1 being enthusiasm. I think you have to have enthusiasm as a coach. Because if you don't bring that enthusiasm, which means energy and effort, then your players won't either. Number 2, which could be interchanged with number 1, is knowledge of what you're talking about. You have to know what you're talking about. Not to a super high extent, especially at youth baseball, but enough to know that you're a little bit better than the people you're coaching.
Sure.
And 3rd, probably the most important thing is to be able to repeat yourself, but repeat yourself in many different ways. Because if I say one thing one time to a player and they don't understand it, I have to be able to say it a different way. And they don't get it again, I have to say it a different way, and a different way, and a different way, and a different way. 25 times later, now they finally understand it. Because if I keep repeating the same thing over and over again and they don't understand it, it's my fault.
Sure.
Not their fault.
Yep.
And if I'm too ignorant and foolish to change it and be like, this kid's fucking stupid. I keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. He doesn't get it. Well, you got to change your approach. You got to change the way you talk to him. You got to change your words. You got to change your tone. You got to change when you talk to him. You can't just say, he's a fucking idiot. He doesn't get it. Well, that's on you.
Yes.
That's taking ownership over your coaching style the same way you want your kids to take ownership over their ability as a player. They make a mistake. You want them to blame the grass, the dirt, the sod, the scun, the umpire? No, you want them to say, I was in the wrong position. I didn't get my glove down. I didn't have a pre-pitch communication. I didn't move my feet. Great. Next time we'll get it. That's ownership. And so if we do that as coaches, our players are going to do that as well.
Yep.
So I think that's important also.
Beautiful. So talk to me about your challenges.
Dude, I think the only challenges that I've had this season, which is cool as a first-time head coach, is that we've lost a lot of guys. Like at the
injuries.
Beginning of the season, we lost our best catcher to another team.
Yep.
So that sucked.
Yep.
Then right off the bat, had 2 guys who couldn't throw.
Yep.
Then the same guy who couldn't throw broke his toes. So now we're down to 9 players.
Which is he coming back at all this season?
He might if we play at the end of the season. So that's been the only challenge. But I've only really had 10, 11 players to work with in terms of position-wise. So it's been pretty easy to get everyone in the game, get them a bunch of at-bats. The last couple weekends, we had a couple rainouts, so that's been not very fun. But, man, I've really, really enjoyed being a head coach. It's quite fun. I like getting to know my players and seeing them develop and watch them grow and seeing the challenges they face on the field and how can they do better the next time.
Sure.
What words can I say that might impact them? It's been very fun, so I'm excited to we have 3 more tournaments in June.
You're done.
So hopefully they go really well, and then hopefully I'll keep touch base with all the boys for our fall and winter programs, and then see what we can do next spring.
I can't stress this enough for the parents who are listening to this. And I know there's people across the country who do listen to this, and you're going to drop your kids off to the games and practices. Let the coach. It's like Coach Aaron just said, we don't coach youth baseball for the money. We don't coach it for the clout. We don't coach because it's we love the work-life balance of it, right? We do it because we love the development of these kids. But the hardest part of it, and it's going to goes with the whole thing with the umpires, there's an umpire shortage, right? Because parents and coaches wear out umpires, wear them out. I'm very lucky that my parents do not wear out my umpires. But it's very like eye-opening this season above all else of just like, hey, all the cross chatter in the stands, all it does is complicate the situation for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
All the, hey, I want to do this or do that, or I think you should be doing this or do that. Like all it does is just complicate it for the kids. And it makes it tougher to do the job. Because at the end of the day, my job is to put the best product on the field and give your kids the best opportunity to succeed. Not just on the field, but off the field too, right? That's what we're here for. But when we're being challenged at every single corner and every single turn, and then you're hearing every week like, oh, they were talking about this and this and this, and we just want to be a part of it. Like, why? Why is this high school drama occurring? We are a youth baseball team. And I'm talking a little bit about my team because I've heard this stuff, but I'm talking in general.
In general.
This stuff happens a lot.
Right.
And just let the damn coach the damn game. It's just, that's what we're here for. And if we can't coach the game, or we can't enjoy coaching the game because of all the extra BS that's going on in between the games, then coaches who care will dip out.
Mm-hmm. And then
and the coaches
worse coaches
who don't give a shit what you have to say will stand strong. And they might not be the best fit. Like, I am a coach who cares a lot, and so I will be a sounding board sometimes because that is my fault, right? We talked about that. Like, I'm bad at that boundary. I am. And I'm looking forward to having you by my side again so you can help me with that boundary.
Right.
We're nearing the end of that. And I will not allow this to happen again next year. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be like that because I'm a coach who cares. So why would you want to run off a coach like that? And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about a coach like that. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, punch me in the face, I'm still sticking around. But I think that's my like piece on it is like what we were just agreeing on is as you push and push and push and push as a parent, certain coaches will back off and say, I'm done with this stuff.
Right. I mean, it happens in the service industry all the time.
Sure.
For therapies, for example.
Okay.
Right. Or anyone who works with people directly one-on-one. They get burnt out so quickly because they're just carrying such a load and they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And maybe that's not the same as coaching youth baseball, but if all you're doing is getting pestered for trying your best, then what the fuck is it for?
Yeah.
Then what the fuck is it for? Not saying that that's happening, but if you're a parent out there and you have a son coming up, like learn your best to try and be as relaxed as possible at the baseball games.
Yes.
That's important.
Yep.
Because what I teach these kids with their mental skills is how to be calm and energized in the baseball game. And all your kids at age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way up till they leave you for high school, will at some point look at you during the baseball game.
Right.
They will look at you. Whether it's dad or mom, they will try and look at you. Yep. And if you look like you're tensed out of your mind, having a horrible time thinking about what the fuck is going on, that's what they're doing. They can read you just like you can read them. But if you're relaxed and loose and having a good time and calm, then you're going to give them that energy.
Right.
And that's the same energy you can create with the parents. So the culture with the parents is also kind and warm, and you don't let people bury the coach in front of you. You say, hey, that's enough. He's doing the best job for our kid. And you stand up for things just like you want your kid to stand up for things. If someone's getting bullied or they see something going wrong, you want them to be the person that stands up, either for themselves or for their friend. And why not you as a parent do that? Yeah, your kid's not hearing this, but it creates a culture for the team that's much more conducive to fun.
Yes.
To fun and for the development of your kid as a baseball player and as a person and as a man. Because we need more strong, capable men who understand these both sides of being kind and compassionate and strong and tough. And so if you're a parent in the stands, you can lead that way. Just like we're trying to do that. And again, none of us are perfect. We're never going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. Coach Bodzin's not going to be perfect.
Nope.
But we can try our best.
Yes. And we do.
And we do try our best. And I mean, I might be perfect, but like, you know, I might be an exception.
Yeah, we talk about that. Get on with yourself, man.
But that's important, right? So he's like, I mean, I want to do things a little bit differently next year when we coach the 15U team.
Say that again.
I want to do things a little bit differently next year.
Oh, sure.
Because I want to have some meetings up front. I want to be very clear ahead of time.
Very clear boundaries.
I want to start doing it, and that's just a work in progress. Not to say that they're bad this year. My relationship with my parents is fantastic. But I want to get ahead of it, because if you talk about things before they happen, then you have something to lean on when eventually, if they do happen, you're putting on responsibility and accountorship and ownership and what we expect and things that we're looking for and all of this stuff. And we're working through that. You know, Coach Lovell gives us a lot of tips because he's been doing this for a really long time and he's an absolute magician.
He is great at it.
And now we're finding our own voice in this thing.
People will straight up say, I don't like Coach Lovell. And I'll ask why. Well, he doesn't communicate during the season. I'm like, smart.
Right.
Fucking smart.
Well, because he said everything he needed to say at the beginning.
Yeah.
And if you look into his documents that he sends out, everything that you ever would possibly need answered is right there. Because he knows what he's doing. And his job during the baseball season is to coach baseball. And that's where he wants all of his energy and attention, is coaching the baseball game. And coaching the players and developing practice plans and seeing which moves to make. And that's what we want to develop too. So if we can get ahead of it and create a relationship and a culture that's conducive for this, for fun, for development, for winning potentially, all of that stuff, I think that's good. And we're just learning as we go. And I think that's the coolest part about it is you never stop. I never stop learning how to try and be good at baseball, because you're never too good to get better. And the same way as a coach, you're never too good to get better.
Correct.
And if you can mesh those two things together, and then create good relationships with the kids and the parents, like, you're going to have great retention rate, which is really what matters as a coach, right? If kids want to come back, that means you did a good job. If every single person on your team says, no, I don't want to come back,
you got an issue.
You know you did something fucking wrong.
It happens.
And it happens because sometimes you have a bad season, sometimes things just don't go the right way, or sometimes you just are not a good coach and you need to reevaluate that as well. But if you have more than 80% of your kids want to come back, it's pretty good.
You're doing pretty good.
Pretty good. And then you build from there and get better and you get better and you get better. So
all that to be said, that was that all went off about why we haven't filmed in a month. So you want to start the podcast now?
So episode 42 of the podcast. That was like a 35-minute rant.
Yeah. So we want to talk about like what we were actually doing. I'm just kidding. That's exactly what we were going to talk about.
That's exactly what always happens when I always come over here and you're like, dude, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, don't worry.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Today, I did not say, dude, I don't know. Today, I was like, I don't know.
So
we're going to talk about, I don't know.
We always just have like one thing is always on our, no matter what, when we hit record, we could always just talk about how our season is going.
Sure. We haven't done a lot of that this season.
And we're always going to have words
I've been so focused on the season, I haven't really wanted to talk about it. I'm so fucking proud of these kids, man. It's so much fun to watch it's so gratifying to watch how they developed over the season. You've seen it. You've seen after game one, you've seen game, whatever the heck like
28, 35,
something like that. I don't know. But like how big of a difference there's been. Like huge difference. It's such a gratifying experience to say, hey, this is my team. And this is what they've done. This is how far they've come now.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's really cool.
It would be a lot more gratifying if I wasn't dealing with all the rest of the outside noise.
External factors are always going to be a thing.
I know it.
When you're dealing with human beings.
Yep. But absolutely.
Any other thoughts, Coach Bodzin?
No, I would like to start doing this. I think one of the biggest reasons we haven't done this every week is because we're so busy, man. Yeah. We're both really busy. Which is a great thing, right? It's so great that we're both busy.
Yeah.
There was a time in my day job where it was very slow, and so I had a lot of time to, hey, come on over. I'm free anytime. Now it's hey, last week we were supposed to do it on a certain day. I'm like, dude, I'm swamped.
Yeah.
Today, just by happens chance, we talked about this on Sunday, and I was like, yeah, and it still worked somehow.
Barely, even though we have practice in an hour.
10 minutes from me, yeah.
But okay, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, Coach Bodzin. Thank you,
guys. At the end of the day, what you really need to remember is one thing.
One thing only,
and just remember that at the end of the day, champions adjust.